Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for May 7th, 2024. I'd like to bring the meeting to order and take the roll.
Hope Swearinger is absent this evening. Camille Keys is also absent. Brenda Hupka?
Here.
Doesn't look like Aaron is here yet, so we'll mark him as absent for now. Eric Montiel?
Here.
Carl Adams?
Here.
Stephen Riddell Lopez is also absent this evening. Michelle Austin?
Here.
Noah Kaplan?
Here.
And Chair Haggerty?
Here.
A quorum is present. Thank you. I would just remind the commissioners to please, if you're going to talk, you have to put your mic on so we get it recorded, please.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, next agenda item is the approval of minutes. Any changes or anything, discussion for the minutes from last meeting? Okay, call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
All right, we can call for a vote.
Brenda?
Yes.
Aaron's not here. Eric?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Noah?
Aye.
Chair Haggerty?
Yes. All right.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval findings of fact for case use 2024-008, the findings of fact for Lava Islands. Let's see, I think we have to ask for a motion to approve it first, and then we can have a discussion.
I'll make a motion to discuss or approve the findings of fact for Lava Land.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and then we can discuss any changes, discussion, any other items for consideration since the last meeting? Hearing none, then we can go ahead and vote.
Brenda?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Noah?
Aye.
And Chair Haggerty?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And then we have a new item on the agenda. I guess as part of our updated UDC, we now have a approval of resolution PZ-01 series of 2024, the conditional use permit for Lava Island so conditional use permit 2024-008, which is resolution PZ-01. Similarly, I will ask for a motion to approve, and then we can discuss if there's any.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, go ahead.
Spare you that this time, Brenda.
I'll second the motion.
All right, any discussion on the conditional use permit as well?
I just want to say, I really think that this is a great use for that shopping center. It's pretty empty. There's no problem with parking, and I think it'll energize the center. So I think it's a really good thing. So I just want to put that in.
Thank you, Michelle. I agree also. Any other thoughts? All right, hearing none, we can vote on the approval.
Brenda?
Yes.
Eric?
Aye.
Carl?
Yes.
Michelle?
Aye.
Noah?
Aye.
Chair Haggerty?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we could open up public forum, but I'm not seeing anybody. I'm assuming nobody's online.
That's correct.
Okay. So we don't have to do the public forum. I also believe there is no public hearing per se, so we can move right on to the review of capital improvements. Fantastic. Thank you all for coming today and talking with us again on some of these topics, but we really appreciate the information you provided before, and I'm sure some additional information today to help guide us in this process. I'm sure you all read Nancy's email in thorough detail, so we will be having some additional discussion from our leads tonight, be able to discuss any of the projects that we would like to have more information on. We will then receive the scoring form tomorrow, and each of us will go through that scoring process by next Tuesday, the 15th. If we could return those scoring items, and then that'll help guide us in our next meeting to basically decide what items we will propose to council for funding. Again, we present our recommendations to city council for funding, and they'll make the final determination on what projects get what funding. But obviously, these conversations are very helpful for them as well as for our leads here. So with that, I will allow Brian maybe to start us off here, or whoever else might be starting.
I don't really have much of a lead off other than what Colin's already told you. Aside from what we have is currently we have approximately $15.2 million in requests, and we only have $9 million worth of potential funding. I might also remind everyone, this is the night to ask these three folks questions. They won't be at our next meeting. So if you have questions about any of these projects, we need to get it fleshed out tonight.
Thank you, Brian. With that, is there any additional information that you all would like to present, or is it just open for questions at this point? Victor?
Yeah, thank you for having us here tonight. So I just wanted to touch on quickly, some additional information was provided regarding the Public Works facilities and year out request. Happy to answer any questions along the lines, but we attempted to identify any overlap in there. There's a spreadsheet that's provided in large format. You can see which projects overlap. The Public Works facilities request was reduced slightly based on that, but hoping to provide that clarity on, what projects we're doing. We also provided year out, provided what they call a FIM matrix, which shows the facility and the proposed upgrades there. One of the items that was touched on during the council meeting was around upgrades to this building. You'll notice looking at that FIM matrix, which kind of looks like this document. Civic Center is the very top line. There are only two dots that are filled in, the building envelope and the BCS optimization. And that's because we gave direction to year out that if the energy improvement didn't pay back in 5 years or less, we were not interested in looking at it for this building because it's unknown how long we're going to be in this building. So, it needed to pay back immediately for us to make that investment into the Civic Center building. That was our approach on the energy audit.
What page is this on?
It was an attachment to the packet. I apologize, I don't know what page it was on. I got it from clicking the link in the agenda. It was the City of Inglewood ROM FIM matrix and cost estimate.
So I saw Nancy holding up this big sheet of paper. So is
page-
this what we're talking about,
No,
basically?
I don't think that's the exact one. It's starting on page 84 is that FIM matrix, or 85 of your agenda, and this is the last two pages. So there's just a little bit of additional information before that, but this has the majority of the information, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct,
Yeah.
it does. The FIM matrix is just nice because it shows you what energy audit improvements are proposed at what building. So it gives you a little bit of a breakdown there.
I mean, I think the energy audit is one that I definitely have some questions on, but go ahead, Carl.
Before we get into too much detail, can we go over the spreadsheet change that we need to be doing and what happened and why?
Are you talking about the voting, or not the voting, the ranking spreadsheet? Is that what you're referring to? The one that we'll have to do next week?
We're doing a spreadsheet with our preferred choices on there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, Carl. I not seeing, I'm blanking on her name right now that helped us out last week to kind of discuss that process. I'm assuming we will get more information and guidance on how to fill out that spreadsheet when we receive it tomorrow. We kind of had stepped through it, but I can't say without having done it before, that I'm fully comfortable in going through it tonight. I guess I was assuming, Carl, as I believe you are, that maybe we'd have a little guidance on that document.
So what is on the spreadsheet? Is it basically this stuff here?
No, it is not. I'm not sure if any of you have the spreadsheet currently.
And we'll get that sent out to you tomorrow, and we will have very detailed instructions on how to fill that out. So we're still getting a bit of clarification from Jenny Nolan, our budget manager. But if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Brian or me. But we're going to try to give you screenshots and a few other things. So we're not prepared to share that tonight. I apologize.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. I do think that is going to be an important part. If we are going to use that this time and there are significant questions, I'm not sure that we'll be able to fully go through it unless we're taking the beginning of the meeting next time to go through it. So just based on the email and conversation, I was assuming that we were going to have maybe some more run through on that this evening. If that's not the case, that does make it a little more challenging. So I would recommend that when everyone gets the email tomorrow, you take a look at it. If there are questions, don't email the entire group because that creates issues. Email Nancy, let her know that you're running some troubles, and I'm sure we can try to work through it, or Ms. Nolan, I'm sure, can help us out individually to make sure that we are getting the information needed, because we do need to try to move forward with this as expeditiously as possible to make our meeting in June.
I could also suggest, if it would help the group, the commission, you can go back and watch the, help me out, directors, April 22nd council meeting when all the presentations were done, and Ms. Nolan does do an overview of the spreadsheet and how to complete it, and that's all on the screen. So that might be another option as well. And I'll resend that link when I send the spreadsheet.
Nancy, I would just add, there's a link to the video on the agenda for today's meeting that you can click. It'll take you straight to the YouTube of the meeting on April 22nd.
So the spreadsheet will be, each item will be averaged, and that number determines funding for it.
So I think the way it's supposed to work is each individual goes through and prioritizes their projects the way that they see fit. Then the finance department will put all that information together and will represent that. You will present that to you at the next meeting, and that's where you will kind of finalize your where y'all feel like the project stands. So it starts individually and then it comes back as a group.
So the next meeting will be where we actually fill it out?
No, you'll need to fill out the information before the next meeting. They take all that information and they put it together and then kind of average everything out. This is the way I understand it. It's a new tool for all of us. Trust me, it's a little bit different this year. And so you'll put your information in individually, get it back to Nancy and I, and the finance team will kind of average it and put all that information together where you get kind of everything averaged out at the next meeting, and that's where we can fine tune and tweak everything. I know normally we would, I think, at least the way I remember, sorry, we only do this once a year. We put it all together in one big spreadsheet as we're talking through it, and then it gets finalized, I think, at the second meeting. But this one is just a little bit different this time.
I think the intent of this is that the spreadsheet's supposed to help us prioritize which projects are important to each one of us. And then they'll take that information and compile the ranking of them. We're still going to have to go through and figure out what funding goes to which projects. And that's what we will do next meeting. We're going to need to have a spreadsheet out and go through that process. So today's opportunity is to ask questions about the projects. This next week, we'll take the time to go through and rank what we think is important for the city of Inglewood based on our knowledge of the city and history with these projects. And then next meeting, we will go through and put together our draft budget and then I think be prepared to present that to city council. Does that seem like an accurate statement?
So normally we have a figure and a list and the cost of each item on the list, and we go through and figure out what we want to go for, and then we find out we're 2 million overshoot. So we go through and eliminate some stuff, and then we try to zero in on it. But we're not getting any current spending money on that in the fund.
Well, I think that's what we will do next meeting, Carl, is that exact process. I think the thought process with the ranking tool is to help us understand kind of money set aside, what's really the important things that we should be working on to help us guide those decisions, as well as just the monetary side.
So we're not going by any funding whatsoever. It's council will compare our requirements, our average numbers with the funding. Seems like a lot of work for them.
So I don't necessarily know what the finished product that they're going to get, aside from if they get the averages of what you all do. Ultimately, it becomes the same thing. You guys make recommendations to council, they adopt it, except instead of doing it as a whole this year, everybody does it on their own, and then it comes together as a whole.
And maybe I'm misunderstanding that, Brian. Will there, on that ranking spreadsheet, are there dollar amounts that we're supposed to be putting in at that point in time also?
Let me see if I can take a look at mine. We had a quick meeting with finance about a week and a half ago, and that's as much as I've had on this. So hold on one second.
And I understand that. I think the challenge is, there's an expectation that we're supposed to put this draft budget together, and we need all the information. I know some of the requests that we had was, what was the 24 funding to date at this point? I don't think I saw that in the packet that we received. I know you've provided some additional breakdown on a lot of the projects. I just want to make sure that we have all the information that we need to be able to make an educated and informed decision on what projects get what funding.
If I recall from the last meeting when we went over these projects, there was a column in the spreadsheet for the requested amount, and there was a request to add a column if somebody wanted to essentially fund a different amount from what was requested. So the amounts should be included in the spreadsheet. Yeah.
Okay. With the spreadsheet aside, I think what we want to go through today, what we have the opportunity to go through today, are the projects that are on the list that we discussed last meeting, and be able to discuss and ask questions about those specific projects and be able to understand again what those funding requests are. So spreadsheet aside, I think this is the opportunity to ask those questions. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand the information in this packet that I've been provided. So on the beginning of this packet in this spreadsheet, you'll see the big ask right there is the citywide facility energy efficient project. Then it says it's on page 49, and then I get confused because then is it the same breakdown as this? No, it's not. It says 49. Somebody just help me understand that line.
Before we get into that, I've had my light on, Colin. Before we get into specifics on the spreadsheet, do you mind if I interrupt briefly?
Yeah, I didn't see that either. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'd like to ask staff to find out and give us what it really is the formula. I mean, we're talking that they're averaged between all of us, but I'd like to know if that's exactly what's going to happen. I want to know the math behind when we rank things, if it's going to be an average or if it's weighted or anything like that. Because if we have the ability to put in different dollar amounts, I'm I want to know what the box is that we're going to end up with. What's the math behind it, if that's possible.
Yeah, give me a few minutes. Y'all start talking about projects, and I'll keep looking.
We can do it next meeting too. I mean, okay. I just would like to know: is it really an average between all of us, or what is it really?
We'll try to get more information from finance on how the worksheet works, and I'll keep reading through my emails.
That'd be great, because it kind of sounds like we're all kind of guessing on what's we put our numbers in and what's going to come back out. It just would be helpful. And then the second question, and this is maybe should have been asked before, so I apologize if that's the case. Why are we using this spreadsheet when I thought it worked pretty well before. So why are we, I mean, somebody put a lot of work into that spreadsheet. That's a huge spreadsheet with lots of, you know, macros and all sorts of stuff in it. So somebody took a lot of time to develop this. Is there a reason that, is it just going to make it easier for all of us, or what's the purpose of the spreadsheet?
I don't necessarily know why they went to a new tool. Do you guys have any?
There was a consultant that was hired last year, and last year was kind of I'll call it a pre-implementation of the process. The city manager's office worked with finance and a consultant to streamline and update our process to try and make sure that all boards and commissions were involved, and then essentially funneling through P&Z through this process to roll up to city council. I don't recall when it was presented. I want to say it was like November or December of last year. This new process that we'd be completing in 2024 for the 2025 budget.
I'll be honest, I was sort of surprised that it's kind of like, you will do this, rather than generated from us organically. And how much did that whole process cost, you know?
I do not know, I'm sorry.
Can you find out for our next meeting?
Yeah, I can certainly work with the team, and we can try and find that information out for you.
Okay, because it's asking us, I mean, it's going to take about each of us a bit of time to go through this and enter all this stuff. So I'm like, well, why are we doing this? So I hate to like rain on everybody's parade or anything, but I just didn't understand why we're going through this whole process and doing that when it seemed to work pretty well before. So some more answers on that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I don't disagree with your sentiment on it. I know the intent is good, and we're trying to get, you know, again, more guidance from each one of the directors to be able to really understand what their priorities are. I think it might be a little too early for it is where I'm feeling with it. So I guess maybe the question becomes, is it a requirement to use that spreadsheet for this process? Or next week, if we all get it and we decide to go through our spreadsheet process the way we've done it in previous years, would that be sufficient for this process?
My question would be, use the spreadsheet that you were given. As far as we've been directed, that is the process, is to use the new tool, not to go back and use something that we've done in the past.
Okay. I don't disagree with Michelle's sentiment on it, though. If that's the case, then I think we need to actually take next meeting to go through that spreadsheet. I will throw that out there. So go ahead, Michelle.
Well, and I was just saying this on page 2 and 3, it's a list of all the priority 1. And so, you know, it'd be, what we used to do is go through something similar to this spreadsheet and say yay, nay, all that sort of stuff. And then we would go on to those further pages where it includes tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. So yeah, if you could just answer those questions that I asked previously, that'd be fantastic. Thanks.
Can you repeat those questions? Are you talking about?
Oh, well, first of all, what is the math behind each of those cells, and what we're going to get back? Is it truly an average of, you know, it's priority 1 for 3 of us and it's priority 3 for the other 3, and how is it scored, and how do we end up with the number that's going to be in that spreadsheet for us to discuss? And then also how much it costs to develop that whole thing. I mean, I think the intent is good. I think what staff and everybody's trying to do is make it simpler. I'm not so sure it's so simple for me, is what I'm trying to say, or Carl, or any of us, because it does involve going through, rather than a lot of our meetings where we go through and we discuss things, and that's oftentimes our discussion can influence how I rank something. And we're kind of eliminating that in some ways. And that's why I want to know the math behind it, and also how we're going to go forward, because like I said, I can change my mind based on the discussion. And if we're just basically filling out a spreadsheet and we're going to, you know, average everything, I just want to make sure nothing's lost. I think the intent is good. I just want to make sure that nothing's lost in the process.
And we're going to try to get finance here at the next meeting to go through.
Because they did this thing,
yep.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
They helped create this. and we can have them come talk to you guys on how it works.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brenda.
I was gonna say, I could swear this was introduced last year. It was, was it? I started to use it. I did. I
There was
started to fill
a
it out.
beta version, if you will, last year, I
okay.
think for part of the, to try to get out some of the glitches and yeah.
Yeah, I think it might be complicated, but I'm excited to use it. You know, we talk about getting our voices out there and what we think, you know, based on what we think the public likes. I think this is a much more concrete way of gathering that information versus just having a chat about it and maybe a majority of people don't agree and we just move on. I think this is a better way of, we might try this just to see if it isn't documented a little better. You know, and you can put this number down without having to discuss it, you know, or have to make a case for it. I'm trying to say that, you know, you don't have to be judged by your peers if you don't agree with them. Here is this number that you feel, and it gets weighted. It's a weighted measure. I do believe that it'll be, yeah. I saw it last year, so anyway, we'll give it a try. Do we? Anybody else have any questions about this spreadsheet?
Yes. Oh yes.
Okay.
If you're done.
Yeah.
Okay. Victor, you had started to talk about this last spreadsheet for the I think it was item number 62, the facilities and operation, the 2.058. Could you maybe explain a little bit more about what the potential year out projects are versus the facilities and operations? Are you saying that the potential year out are ones that can be done in future years, or maybe just explain the columns in the spreadsheet a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So starting first with the spreadsheet in the packet, which is page 18 of 87. At the bottom there, there's some hyperlinks to page 49 and 62. Page 49, again, that's just a one-sheeter summary of year out. And then page 62 is a one-sheet summary of the larger spreadsheet that everybody's got. This document here, which is kind of a combination. It shows you all the facilities projects that we've identified. And then it also lays out where the overlap is. So the facilities projects on the spreadsheet are things that the Public Works Facilities team have identified based on structure building that need a level of either repair or replacement. And then we overlaid that with year out to identify if we're proposing to replace something. Example here would be the Civic Center lighting upgrade. Could be a year out potential where we don't want to double dip. And so if year out's got it identified as one of their projects, we don't want to list it as a facilities project. Not all the facilities projects are energy efficient by nature of what they are, and like replacing the roof. You know, that's not going to be an energy efficient project. So year out would not have included that in their scope. So we have all of it under the facilities umbrella. We have year out, which actually payback. There's a payback period depending on what it is, where it saves the city money. And then there's the facility side where not everything is going to be energy efficient. And that's why you kind of have two separate asks there.
Okay, so line 62 from page 18 is for $2,058,500, which is what this total is down here on the backside of the spreadsheet.
Correct.
Are you saying the line 49, which is 3 lines above, the citywide facilities energy efficient projects that have a $3.85 million request, are the overlaps here in the year out projects? Like these ones that say year out are part of that?
Correct, but not all of them are there. Those are just the few that facilities had identified. Okay. So they're not all encompassing. So they stack on top of each other. There's no overlap between the projects.
And then is there a breakdown? I feel like there's a breakdown briefly here on the detail page of line item 49, which is on page 66 for the $8.5 million total cost for the energy efficiency items with some grants and things like that, which gets it back to the 3.85. Is there a breakdown of all of these items from line 49, page 66 on the energy efficiency items?
The closest thing that Year Out has at the moment is the FIM matrix.
Can you name what is Year Out? Maybe I'm missing.
But Year Out is our consultant.
That's probably, I was thinking.
Yeah. So the city hired an energy consultant via a grant from the state to do an energy audit of all city facilities. So they have done.
I don't find 18 and 66. I don't find the spreadsheets you're talking about. Are those numbers in
so
here?
Number on that package would be page 66 of that package.
That's this. This is my page 66, the packet. It's an individual request.
Yeah.
That's not what we're.
I'm sorry. It looks like it's page 50. It's the overall packet. There's two separate numberings on this package. So check page 50 of that. Yep, there we go.
Page 50 is this.
Is the energy audit. Yep.
Okay. All right.
From the consultant Year Out.
From the consultant Year Out.
Not a Year Out. Okay, that's.
So for the benefit of everybody that might not have a computer, can we use the numbering on this?
Yes, I see that now. There's multiple page numbers on the page. We can use those pages now, which are.
That'd be really helpful to me.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks.
Okay, so Victor, going back to this conversation. So these potential Year Out projects are part of this energy efficiency audit process that the consultant Year Out completed. Is there a list of these projects located in this packet someplace?
Yes. They're identified via this dot matrix. There's not a cost breakdown per project because of the nature of the projects. Their Year Out would be going for grants to do things like solar PV. So that's the solar implementation, which actually is a big ticket item at multiple locations. So a grant would be applied for in a lump sum for multiple buildings.
Okay. This FIM matrix, Michelle, is not in any of this printout that I'm seeing, just to give you a heads up so you won't be able to see that, but there's no numbers really associated with it. I don't know that that really explains what these projects are, or how much they cost, or what we're really looking at here for these individual items to really understand, because realistically, we don't have enough money to do all these. I understand that there's grants associated with them, but we're going to really need to see a breakdown similar to what we have in this spreadsheet for the $2 million ask to see, what are some of these items that we think might be important enough to give you a lump sum to say, hey, we're going to do the HVAC units for $750,000, for example, right? And so trying to understand, what these energy improvements are is going to be really important, because without it, I love the energy audit. I love the efficiency of everything, but it's another $3 million and we're already $6 million over right now. It's an easy place to cut without any real additional information at this point.
Sure. And I'll follow up with Year Out and see if we can get a more detailed breakdown. I know we've talked about it with them before, and there is, again, it's on the packet online. I apologize if it's not in your hard copy packet. There are there's some information about the cost savings and payback periods in there.
Can you say which page that's on?
It's the page right before the dot.
It's 84 and 85 on the online
project, but it's the sort of type of project.
Nancy, is it possible? Can we display at least on the screen? Or do any of you have
Mark,
access to that?
Give me some assistance in the community room, please.
The matrix is on page 85 of the PDF that was emailed.
Yeah, agreed. But it is in the agenda items for this evening. But again, it's not a printout that's here for us. But thank you, Eric. Yeah.
Mark, do you want me to use the puck? Okay.
What's the time frame for the payback on the energy efficient improvements?
So, it would depend on the improvement, and that is on page 84 of the packet. It basically breaks it down based on the improvement, the annual utility savings, and then you get the total savings in there. So basically we'd be dividing out the labor, equipment, material costs by that savings, and that would tell you the life of the payback period there.
Can you maybe clarify? Oh, sorry, or can I ask a question regarding the same thing? So year one says the total savings would be 197,000. That would be with the implementation of $8.5 million worth of improvements. We would save $180,000, $197,000. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And change, yes.
Okay. And
that's with all the improvements that they've identified there. I believe at the April meeting, that was something Councilmember Ward also pointed out, that it's almost a 20-year payback.
Is that what you're asking, kind of, Eric, on that thing? Okay. Did that help?
Exactly what I was asking, yes.
If I can clarify a question on this spreadsheet. So you've got labor, equipment, and materials costs in that column. And then down below in the totals, there's separately the pre-construction and construction. How are those separate? Like how is construction cost different from labor, equipment, and material?
That's a good question. I will have to get clarification for you on that.
It's possible, and I would think it feels a little hefty, but pre-construction is probably a design effort. Maybe we get some clarification on that before I start.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but is this the document you're looking for?
That is correct. Thank you.
That's the one we're looking at the moment.
Thank you.
And so just to maybe clarify or repeat, this is the breakdown from the request. This is as much breakdown. There's not individual projects broken down at any point for where these are all located.
Correct. And the next page actually identifies which facility is lined out for which energy upgrade. Any chance you can zoom in on it a little bit, Nancy? Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess you kind of cross-reference the building envelope going up back up to the top of 135,000 is going to touch basically every building except for the police department.
Correct. And that's because the police building is essentially the newest building in the city.
So looking at page 84, the year out savings, it's $5,814,406 in labor, equipment, and material costs in order to save $197,580 a year.
And that's an estimate. They essentially take a very conservative approach, and the utility savings are based on their experience, and then you got to factor in the grants on top of that. And so the grant dollars are unknown at this point because we haven't applied, and we'll be identifying those. So we anticipate, and again, this is conservative because we don't know, grant dollars bringing down those labor, materials, construction costs, and then on the opposite side, again, increasing the equation in the positive direction, the utility savings to be higher than they're estimating.
Okay.
So we expect costs to go down because of grants and savings to go up because of the way they've estimated conservatively on what we would expect from a savings standpoint.
Okay. Because the math there is less than 3.4% savings for almost $6 million of expenditure.
And again, I think part of the challenge is, where, like, especially this building, right? How long are we going to be here? Are we emphasizing that? And I think we need to look at these things and consider them. I believe this is considered a tier 1 request, but I think that's kind of where we go into our prioritization, and maybe understanding a little bit more from the Public Works of, are there specific ones that we think we should consider to target some of these, or are there any maybe additional pieces of items that you like us to consider when we're looking at this?
Yeah, I mean, one way to maybe think about it is if you're looking at the FEM matrix, which is the next sheet, you could think about it from the perspective of the actual structure itself. Again, using Civic Center as an example, I think everybody would agree at this juncture, not worth a lot of investment because it's unknown. Is the Malley Center going anywhere anytime soon? Is the Rec Center going anywhere time soon? Probably not. Likely a good investment there, given the use of the public and the age of the structure and the longevity of the structure. Again, not expecting it to go anywhere. So not providing any specific direction, but just something to think about. If you wanted to, you could go through and say, we really think, I'll be selfish, the service center should get some upgrades. Parks is in the service center as well. Just different ways to think about some of these upgrades.
Is the intent that we will not know what the potential grants are until we have gone through the process? Or is there potential for a next step that could say, we actually really feel like these numbers are realistic as opposed to potential for a future request?
Yeah, the timing is going to be just dependent on when the grants come out. And so we do anticipate as we move through this process to have more information. But then once the process is done, we expect, more and more to come out. At the moment, there are a number out there, and we're working with Year Out to identify those. What the matching funds are required. And as the weeks go by, we have more and more information because those grants become more and more available.
Thank you.
One comment and one question. So comment for the commission members is to keep in mind that when we're talking about energy efficiency upgrades, the payback time period isn't necessarily the only consideration, right? So it's also it's an investment in powering our city more cleanly as well, even if it doesn't fully pay for itself within the life of the structure. And the question I had is that I noticed that the police department, which you mentioned, newest building in the city, is included for EBCX BAS optimization. I think BAS is building automation system.
That's correct.
I don't know what EBCX is.
It's around the automation for the air conditioning and air handling systems.
Okay. And then in the facilities projects, there's also 100,000 for HVAC building management system for the police station. And I just wanted to see if that was a potential overlap. HVAC building management versus the building automation system. Are those targeting different things? It doesn't, police station rolls over from one to the other. Yeah.
I don't believe it is, but I will double check with the team.
Great.
I think the facilities is more, I'll call it maintenance level, where Year Out is adding additional equipment that we would not be doing, and that's why there's no overlap to automate the system and build in that energy efficiency.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Carl?
To me, the upgrades, the improvements, LED lighting, that's basically an upgrade, is not really a capital improvement project thing to me. It's a maintenance or upgrade. You're improving what's already there. Does the globe lighting on the streets towards Broadway, are they LED? Seems like there's a lot of them that are really dim and some are a little brighter, and like they're mercury lights that are burning out.
So on the street lights, it would depend on the lighting. The vast majority of the lighting in the city, I would say 95% or better, is Excel owned. If you're talking about the ones that are, I call them broccoli shaped with the globes. Those are primarily city owned, and they're mostly high pressure sodium at this point, unless there's been a knockdown or a replacement that's been required.
All right. All right, thank you.
Again, I think there was a few things that were requested at the last meeting, including 24 expenditures and maybe what the final numbers were that were provided for some of these projects. I'm not sure if it was able to make it into these packets.
And that's for all projects across the board?
I believe these priority ones. So basically any of the capital requests, the capital projects fund, and which is 31, and then with the other one, might be missing it. I'm going back to my notes from last meeting, and the public improvement fund.
And just to clarify, so that's 24 expenditures. Were you looking for 23 as well, or just?
And expenditures maybe isn't even the right. If that's not available, I would like to know what we approved for each one of these in 24 to see if there's, are we asking for more? Are we asking for less? Are we spending the money that we're hoping to spend? That it kind of helps, understand where we're moving with each one of these programs that is being requested. And then I believe one other item that we had asked for, well, I'll have to go back to my notes here for a second. If anybody else has any interim questions? Go ahead, Brenda.
The pedestrian bridge for going over Oxford. Am I correct that that's on page 13 and that is a tier 3 project and there's no request for this year? Or the request is for 2027, $500,000? Or am I just looking at, it's identified as a rail segment, so maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm asking because it's got a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? People are looking for that to get built just because of the money that's supposed to be funded, and I don't know if it has, from the construction of the PUD. It has a lot of visibility. And I would consider it a part of safety if I were to advocate for it, but I'm not sure where I see it on. I mean, I see it on page 13 of the packet electronically, or no, that's page 29, sorry, but 13 here. And it does not look like it's funded.
And that's should show up as a tier 3 with a $300,000 request in 2026. And then 2027, there's $5 million lined out for it. Is that what you see on your line there?
Yeah, I think it's broken into segments. Is that correct? There's a because I'm seeing what Brenda was noting: rail trail segment 1 bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
yep.
Okay. Here.
Oh, so maybe is there multiple Oxford Ped bridges?
No, there's only one Oxford Ped bridge. I see what you're talking about there.
So that's on page 5. So what you're talking about when we have all the ranking of 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that's
it's right in there. It's about a third of the way down.
On the very front. Well, we need to get this thing built, people. And start getting pissed because we thought we were going to start it, around the time, and then the pandemic happened, and then the cost went up, and the cost is going to keep going up. And it has, a lot of just ramifications, I think, from the public that they're going to be disenchanted with what we're all doing here. And it is a safety situation. but I would like to rank it higher. I'm just not sure where it is in this. I'm sure it's page 12 and 13.
I think the problem is there's no actual request for it in 25. The request doesn't start till 26.
Yeah, I'll just note that's going to be problematic for the city eventually if we don't get going on that.
Yeah, thank you. So I will note that the bridge completion was pending Sam's Automotive because they're contributing a amount of funds to that. Bear with me 1 second. I'm trying to bring up some project information. I think the reason budget was not requested for that is that it was previously allocated on the city share, and so it's already appropriated and sitting there. Yep.
All right. But you're right.
Here it is.
So would then those rail trail segments be?
Those are independent.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is appropriated. I think and it was hung up because of litigation, I think, surrounding the PUD.
So Oxford pedestrian grant, 1.6 million. And then there's a match. So it's already all appropriated. And we are essentially waiting on the developer's contribution, and then the project will advance. That's why you do not see it in the budget.
Thank you so much, because I get asked.
Sorry, it took me a second to find it.
No, it's okay. I get asked. I got an answer now.
Can you clarify the only item that it's waiting on is the Sam's
Automotive contribution, and then we'll have to go out to bid again. Bids are typically only good for 30 to 60 days. So we'll need to go through that process, but we want to make sure the funds are available so that when we do go out to bid, we can then award the contract expeditiously.
And then is there any associated infrastructure needed to tie that into the existing trail system to the Oxford station? Or did that be all included in that bid package?
Should be all included in the bid package so that we have ADA accessibility.
So I believe that go ahead.
I have a question about just clarifying some of the differences around some of the road and bridge. So we've got bridge repairs with a $500,000 request. We've got road and bridge with a $350,000 request. Pavement maintenance with a $500,000 request. Street reconstruction with a $500,000 request. So I just like a little bit of clarification on what all those things mean and how they're different from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Bridge repairs, there's a hyperlink there to page 45. That's actually repairs on bridges. So the city has 16 bridges, and that is repairs to the bridges. We're seeing challenges with abutments, which is the connections. A lot of joint resealing needs to be redone. We have some bridges where the rebar is becoming exposed. I think I might have touched on during our last discussion, we do have a small bridge. It's not actually a culvert, but a bridge to the north of 285 and Broadway. That one we anticipate needing some repairs. It's not looking in very good shape. If you drop down on the list to the reference page 41, road and bridge, we'll rename that. That's actually materials. So that's road and bridge materials that our team uses in-house to make those repairs, whether it's asphalt, concrete, rebar. We try and do repairs in-house when we can with our streets team, although they are also out on the streets a lot, either street sweeping, pothole patching. We work with the utilities department to patch their road cuts and things like that. Dropping down to street reconstruction, it's about mid-page there. References hyperlink page 24, 500,000 in 2025. That is full depth reconstruction and maintenance that goes in there for rebuilding streets that are beyond like a chip seal or something like that. And then if you drop down, there was one more. Where did it go? I think that was it for tier ones. Did I get all the ones you were asking about? Sure.
And then I think the other one I mentioned was pavement maintenance, which you, if I recall, described at the last meeting as sort of like a rolling process of maintenance to specific areas.
Correct. Okay. So that's our pavement maintenance that is combined with the sales tax increase, and we do pavement zones by area, and we move throughout the city. And of course, we can go out of order if there's a road that's in severe need, but we try and have it on a regular cycle so that everybody's seeing improvements. And we're going to be also resurveying our roads to see what the pavement condition index is that'll help inform which roads we move to moving forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we maybe run through, again, the public improvement funds, how much money we have to spend, and then also the capital improvement fund and how much we have to spend, so we all have a kind of better understanding of what we're going to be shooting for the next meeting?
They're all combined. If you recall, Brian told you those, I believe, at the beginning. 15 point something million total requests. And how much do we have total?
Yeah, we have 15.2 million in requests and then $9 million potential funding.
And it's combined, Chair, funds 30 and 31. That's the total. That's how we usually do it.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the printout page 6, page 22 of the PDF that was in the agenda packet, the grand totals of 15.156, all of those projects, detailed priority projects, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, starting 3 pages above that, are all of the projects that are in that 15.156 million that we will be prioritizing our funding for. Is that correct?
Typically, yes, but the Planning Commission usually does primarily their focus on tier 1, which is on pages 2 and 3, which total 11.5 million. And then you review the tier 2s and 3s to see if there's any you want to move up, but it's however the commission wants to.
That's exactly it, Nancy, and that's what I wanted a little clarification on, and that does actually help. So it's just tier 1s on that page 3, basically that total 11.5.
Correct.
If you bring in the tier 2 and tier 3, the request total 15.156 million.
Correct.
And then what is our final number, just to make sure we understand? 9 point what?
Brian, I gave that to you. Is it 9 million that we have?
Yeah, I just have 9 million even.
Will the $9 million increase with grants or any potential grants?
So grants would be it's an unknown element at this point. They would only affect projects that had that potential. So it'd be just the energy audit from a public works perspective that request could go down. I wouldn't anticipate finance increasing the 9 million available based on grants, because there's no guarantee until it's applied for and received.
So that the request of 3.5 million is for $8 million worth of work. So it's already showing us $3 million there. So accounting for that additional potential grant funding. But again, I think that's a little bit of a risk of, you know, how we would appropriate that.
And it could go up. I mean, we could have I'll say a higher ratio in our favor, depending on the grants.
Are there any other grants? You know, previous years we've had the Hampton bridge replacement, or other Oxford bridge replacement, other projects we've had grants that we need to have a match. Are there any other grants that, or any other projects that have a required match that kind of have to be funded, or else we lose money?
Not on this list. Public Works at the moment, I will say, tapped out on grants. We want to get everything built on grant dollars. And then as we start moving towards the end of those projects, we'll start going on the hunt for additional grants. They do take a lot of staff resources, to meet the federal requirements. And we do have to hire consultants to help us because of the level of requirements, Davis-Bacon wages, all the checks and balances that go in to meet the Fed requirements. So
yeah, it's never free money, right?
There's certainly, and we're very aware from Public Works perspective, what we call a break-even point. If it's going to federalize a project, the grant needs to be somewhere in the probably 800 to a million range for it to be worth it, because of the federalizing requirements that come with it. If it's a smaller grant and it has all of the federal requirements, we really have to put it under a microscope and determine if it's worth pursuing.
Thank you. Go ahead, Carl.
The city has done pretty well on grants, but there was talk about hiring a grant writer. Did that go through?
I haven't heard anything else on that, but I know there's been some conversation, and I think multiple departments would be in support of that. So there may be an enhancement coming in the general budget discussion about a position for that. At the moment, I am not aware of it, but fingers crossed.
I know we've gone pretty well on grants, and I don't know if there's like a percentage where you get so many grants and then they cut you off, or what a grant writer, I would think they would help.
Yeah, they'd also be hopefully able to research grants. At the moment, it's staff or we hire consultants to help us.
Oh, okay.
I do appreciate the efforts that have been made to get us a little bit closer than I thought we were even at before. I think maybe the additional funding was clarified, because I think we were originally at 5 million or something funding. So being at 11.5 of tier 1 or 11.2, whatever that number is, versus $9 million in funding, I feel like hopefully makes our job next week a little bit easier, that we can fund as many things as possible. You know, it might not be bad. We have gone through pretty quickly. Unless there's any other questions, maybe we can just run through those tier 1 projects and just go through the list and make sure everyone understands what each of these projects are. I mean, I don't want anything in detail, but so we can be thinking of that for next meeting. We are going to need to cut some things, and we're also going to need to make some tough decisions. So starting on page 2 of the printout, page 18 of the agenda packet, there are all the tier 1 project requests. So maybe if each group could just give a 1-sentence breakdown of each one of these, that would be great. So starting with public art, wraps, and crosswalks, I think from communication.
I'll take that one.
Okay.
We don't have anybody from communications. So that actually dovetails into public works a little bit. So that's wrapping our crosswalks, our signal cabinet, so you don't have that shiny metal, but with some art that is specific, hopefully, to the area to help draw people in, and then matching that with the crosswalks. You may be familiar. We have some what I'll call enhanced crosswalks on Broadway, the spoons. Actually, I think there's a picture on the cover here. Yes, there is. Things like that. $100,000 will get us around 2 full intersections worth of crosswalks and cabinet wraps.
Okay. I assume that probably ties into the placemaking, wayfinding.
I don't have a lot of information on that one.
I think we discussed that last meeting,
right.
Some additional signs and wayfinding and placemaking.
Sure.
Okay. Parks and Rec parking lot maintenance.
It's a mouthful. We have about 12 parking lots throughout our park system. That includes Malley, Inglewood Rec Center, Pirates Cove, Farm and Train area. Bellevue Park has a total of 4 parking lots there. And so they are heavily used, especially as we're coming into the summer season. We get a lot of potholes and wear and tear on those. And so we're redoing parking lots or restriping, patching, those sort of things annually. 80,000 is what's requested, and ultimately we can do about 2 parking lots, smaller parking lots, for about that with the current cost of asphalt.
Thank you. Alley maintenance then?
Yeah, alley maintenance. This is just our ongoing alley maintenance. We continue to move forward with the pilot we started last year, where we used millings to really stabilize our alleys. And so this is to regrade alleys. We have regraded all alleys in the city, but with the rain, and depending on the uses of traffic, this line item is to continue to maintain those alleys.
I think you touched on bridge repairs earlier with Noah's question.
Yes.
Citywide transportation plan, is that a study then? Is that the question?
Citywide transportation plan is a study. This was something ETAC bumped up to a tier 1. This essentially would provide a base level of city needs with respect to transportation, and also give us something to point to as development comes in. So when development comes in, they do their own traffic studies. This would have a baseline of needs that we could point to and say, hey, developer, in addition to whatever you've identified, our master plans identified these improvements on your frontage. So it gives us a little bit of teeth, depending on the locations and things like that.
Not fully relying on their engineer to understand the impacts of maybe some areas that are already being impacted that we understand better.
Correct. And you know, this also is a citywide plan. So it's big picture looking across the entire spectrum.
And it would be looking at transportation holistically, not just traffic.
So it should include vehicular, multimodal, some aspects of transit, and then looping in discussions on like walk and wheel, and then that's part of multimodal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, accessible ramps, concrete program.
Yeah, this is essentially getting out in front of our ADA transition plan, which will be coming forward soon, and upgrading ramps throughout the city to make them ADA compliant.
If you want to just start running down as
Sure.
quick as you'd like to go with them.
Could I just ask a question?
Yes.
How much
Sorry.
do the ramps cost for each intersection?
So I would need to get an exact number for you. We generally are shooting for triple digit improvements on the ramps. I think generally they're in the ballpark of probably 8 to 12,000 per ramp.
Okay, I was thinking about 10, but
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is there any consideration of, ensuring, so we've got this transportation plan study and, other studies ongoing, and you've talked before about, when we're doing road maintenance, trying to make sure that we're sort of overlapping with other, changes to the built infrastructure around the roads. Are we doing the same thing with the ramps? Is there any consideration of like which intersections might need like bulb outs for safety to shorten intersection distances or other things besides just putting a ramp? Are we trying to make sure that we're not going to put it in and then tear it out again to change something later?
So we absolutely are trying to make sure we're not redoing it multiple times, trying to be fiscally responsible. But coming up, 2 or 3 line items down is our neighborhood traffic calming campaign. So bulb outs would generally fall under that, but that is specific to neighborhoods. We are looking at things, it was mentioned earlier, the grant. So we have the South Broadway Complete Streets grant coming. Bulb outs are proposed there. So we're looking at those projects and making sure, again, we're not upgrading a ramp on Broadway just to go tear it out again in 1 to 2 years. Same on Old Hamden. So we are looking for those, and there's a lot of coordination there.
Great, thank you.
Continue to move down the list, the concrete utility share. So this is the city's share paying into the concrete utility. Don't say that 3 times too fast. And so concrete utility, homeowners pay into that, and the city goes out and takes care of the concrete. Now, homeowners can opt out of that. It is based on their frontage, and we make the repairs to the concrete. Next up, neighborhood traffic calming and safe route to school. So this is implementation, $250,000 per year of improvements that are identified for those things. The next line item down, these really should be in reverse order, is the creation of the program. This is $100,000. So you want to create the program first before you implement. But that $100,000, and you'll see that is only in 2025, and that is to stand up the program. Pavement maintenance by area, we touched on that. That's the city's funds that we put into pavement maintenance in addition to the sales tax. Road and bridge, that's the materials that our streets team uses. Signal upgrade and replacement. This is upgrading our existing traffic signals and replacing them. They do have parts that wear over time between the wind, the last couple of days, and just in general. Some of the steel needs to be replaced, signs need to be replaced, heads, wiring, all those good things need to be replaced.
May I interrupt for a second? Chair, would you like for us to ask questions as he's going through this list of each individual item, or should we wait to are we gonna wait to the end? He's going down this list pretty fast.
He's going pretty fast, but maybe we can get through these first public work ones and then jump back and any questions on those, and that way we can get through and make sure that we do have these. I think that'd be good. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay. Let's see, street reconstruction, we touched on that one, so that's rebuilding the streets. Walk and wheel, that's implementing projects inside the walk and wheel. Neighborhood signs, that's communications, but hopefully self-explanatory there, what they're proposing to do.
And then we'll pause here and just then head back to any of the ones that you'll get questions on, Michelle.
Yeah, I have a question on the difference between the implementation of neighborhood traffic calming and then the neighborhood calming program. What is the difference between those two? And can you be a little more specific about what's included in those?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll start with the neighborhood traffic calming program. That's the $100,000 in 2025. So that is the finalization and creation of the program and rolling it out. So it's envisioned that the neighborhood traffic calming program will be resident initiated, resident sponsored. The city will collect the data to determine and confirm the issue at hand. And then the item above that, the implementation, the 250,000 is to, depending on the findings of the request from the resident based on the program, to implement calming measures that are appropriate. And so that could,
if I understand you, then the neighborhood, the one that starts with neighborhood, not implementation. So you're going to be reaching out to residents on this? Is that what that 100,000 is for, us to reach out to residents and
that's actually to create the create the neighborhood program.
What is that? I don't understand. What's the neighborhood program?
So the neighborhood traffic calming program, that is a program where residents can call in and request traffic calming. People are speeding on my street. I need you to address it. And it's the program they would then enter and fill out and petition for the city to install traffic calming measures on their street.
So I could go into this program and I don't know, where is it online, I'm guessing?
It could be online or hard copies could be mailed out.
Say, hey, everybody's running the stop sign at the end of my street. And then it would be put into this $100,000 program, and then you would implement it with this 250,000?
Correct. Yeah, the 100,000 is to create the program.
So we don't have a program yet?
We do not have a program yet. That is correct.
Okay. All right. So we're basically creating something to put online, basically, is what you're saying.
The petitions, the process, put it online, get it out on social media, and those kinds of things, yes.
Okay. So right now there's no requests yet because we haven't implemented the program.
We get requests on a regular basis, but we do not have a program. So right now requests are being documented, and we've let folks know that we are petitioning in the budget to stand up a program so that we can address their concerns and have budget for the program and then to implement the identified calming measure.
Okay. So I'm sorry if this is just a little bit too much detail here. And
no, you're fine.
I have to understand things from the beginning or else I'm lost. So
sure.
So since we don't have a program, but you've been getting requests just, generically or organically from citizens. So some of those things that have come previous to having this program are in the hopper for this $250,000 implementation. Is that kind of what about right?
They could be, but the data would need to be collected. So the intent is to create the program with 100,000. We would then collect data. Someone says people are running stop signs. Well, we would put up a camera and we would confirm that. Or we would have staff visit and observe and confirm that. If someone says people are speeding, we would put out tubes or radar devices to confirm there is a speeding concern. And is it 1 mile over or is it 15 miles over? And then with that data, we would then dig into the $250,000 line item you see here and implement something to address the concern.
Okay, and so even some of those concerns, maybe just asking the police department to park there for an hour in the afternoon kind of thing, that could happen as well.
That could be. Things that we're thinking about being in the toolbox are radar speed limit signs that tell you how fast you're going, blinking stop signs, could be speed cushions, which are speed bumps with cuts in them so fire trucks don't slow down. They go right through, no problem. Bulb outs, enhanced crosswalks. So there's a litany of things that will be developed in the program. That's the $100,000 for us to pick from once somebody applies.
Okay. At one point there were a proposal for a bunch of roundabouts within the city. Is that still is that in here or no?
So there are several roundabouts on Dartmouth. Those are all funded. They are not in here.
Okay, so that's all funded, so we don't need to worry about those anymore. Okay.
That was a grant, and there were originally 3. It's down to 2, and those are moving forward at the moment.
So are there any other roundabouts that we're talking about in the city?
Not at the moment. Many roundabouts could be part of the traffic calming toolbox.
Okay.
But those are obviously a little more,
great.
on the expensive side.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So we'll jump down to the IIT requests.
Good evening. I'm Joe Eisenbart, IT Director. So our requests are all program related, so there's no projects per se here. The first is the audio-visual upgrades. This is enhancements and upgrades to our audio-visual systems in the city facilities. That would include city council room, this room, and any other audio-visual needs that we have in the various meeting rooms around the facilities. The network development is improvements and upgrades and refreshes related to the city network and server systems. So the 325,000 specifically for 2025 is intended for improvements at the rec center, and also some improvements at the PD to enhance our ability to have redundancy if we should lose a circuit here at the Civic Center. This would give us the ability to fail over to the PD and continue operations until that circuit's back up. That is the focus of that 2025 budget year for that. Next line, patrol cars, MDTs, which are essentially the ruggedized computers that are in the patrol cars. This is a replacement program for those devices, as well as the various technology that goes along with that. So your vehicle mounting, docking, cradle points for network and things of that nature. We had a situation where when we rolled into those rugged computers, we did it over a period of 2 years, so they're all kind of jumbled together. We're reaching end of life for those, so we need to replace those. There's also a request from PD to go with a larger format, so we're looking at that. And if we do go to the larger format, that would mean we would need to replace those docks as well. And to do that, we would want to replace all of the devices, 32 of those at one time, because we wouldn't have the ability to phase that because one dock doesn't meet the other form factor. The next line, PC replacement, is our replacement of laptops, desktops within the organization. Here we are on a 4-year replacement cycle. So we try to replace a quarter of those devices every year so that we can keep them fresh. Approximately 600 computers in total there. And then the security cameras, that's for security cameras around city facilities. We have an increase for that item this year, for next year, for increasing our storage capacity, as well as adding cameras in areas where we don't have coverage. We've had a significant amount of criminal activity going on there, where we ran into a situation where we didn't have video. So we need to improve that. And to do that, we'll need to expand our ability to store that information through the retention period there.
Thank you for all that. You answered my question on the MDTs, if those could be piecemealed. So good to know that that is essential to be able to do that all together. And I guess for the security cameras, then it sounded like there were some additional features, but could that be parsed out at all? Or is that kind of a thing that we need to do all of it? Obviously, it's a very important thing, I think, to everybody here, but just maybe understanding that a little better.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty heavy need right now for additional cameras. As I said, we've had some incidents out here, certainly at Parks and Rec, golf in those areas. So there's a need to get that going right away because we're experiencing losses. And then the storage part of that, which is a pretty significant amount of money, is going to be required. A minimum of 30 days storage is required for those. In some cases, we push that up to 60 to 90 days, depending on what we're dealing with there. Okay. So it really is a kind of a one-year deal. To back up to the patrol cars, we do have the option of possibly extending a warranty and putting off that upgrade. If we decide to go to the larger form factor, we could potentially push that into next year and do it, or into 2026 and do them all in 26, funding half for 25 and hanging on to that and doing the full meal deal in 26.
Thank you very much. Any other questions on that, Carl?
The license plate reader on the patrol cars, as far as I know, we only have one of those. Is there storage on those when can they drive by a car and it's just a stolen car? Can they just tag the location of it if they got another call to go to?
So we don't, IT doesn't support that particular device. I can get information on that and bring it and get it back to you guys for next go around. But that's exactly how it works. It'll read the license plate as they're driving by. We also have stationary cameras around the city that read license plates as they go by, and then feeds into a database and gives us the ability, if we're looking for a vehicle maybe stolen or something like that, it'll tag that vehicle as it goes by and lets us know where it was at that particular point in time, and gives us the ability to respond to it.
Okay, thanks.
Michelle?
This is a little bit off base, but as I drive around, I see all sorts of cars that their license plates are not up to date. I mean, their license have been expired. I'm sure it's not in this packet, but just out of curiosity, is that something that IT departments at other cities can address, that our IT can address? Or I'm guessing that there's a lot of revenue that's probably being missed by cities. And is there a metro area kind of thing that's going on, or does anybody know? I was just curious.
Yeah, I couldn't answer that question.
Okay. Seems like I stop at a light. It's like, yeah.
I see the same thing.
So,
I think it's probably a county, usually for the DM, by a county. So
okay.
Yeah,
I was just curious. It's side question. So
yeah.
thanks.
I think we've all seen those, like, say 2018 on that, but anyway. Yeah. Okay. Moving through into parks. Yeah, just again quickly, and thank you.
All right, and again, I'm Christine Underhill, the Director for Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf. And so art in public places, that's out of the Capital Projects Fund. 1% of whatever the fund distributes the next year goes to the Cultural Arts Commission to spend to acquire, maintain, and commission arts. Let's see, Emerald Ash Borer. So we use these funds annually to treat trees in our parks, the ash trees. Also, we have started a grant program. So residents, if they want to have their ash tree removed or treated, they can apply for the grant up to $500 or 25% of the cost, up to $500 for that. So if you have an ash tree, please apply for that grant if you'd like to get your tree treated, as the Emerald Ash Borer is in town. The next two is for the library. We are in need of replacing the library furniture, updating that. It's fairly old. We clean it often, but we'd like to get some better furniture in the library, and this would include all the study rooms and the public spaces around the library as well. And then the second piece of this is for the single exits and emergency exits. We did the study last year for $15,000. We have stamp plans ready to go. It's construction or shovel ready, as we call it. So that would include the main library entrance. There's a picture of what that would look like, opening that up for better site views for our security and staff, as well as adding additional security exits in the library. If you're on this side of the library, which is the northeast side, there's no emergency exit. So if we were to have a fire or a situation, you don't have a way out. And so that would add an emergency exit on that side, as well as the children's area to exit back to the staff. So those are the 4 that we have in the tier 1.
Thank you very much for that. I guess just to clarify, that 1%, is that the number that we're set on? Like, is that the actual percentage? Is that the exact number that we need?
I don't think that's the actual. It usually changes once the projects have been set and approved. That number will update to reflect the 1% of the capital projects fund total.
Because the combined is 9 million, but I think each one is 5. So
So that would be
somewhere around 50,000. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I just want to make sure that was in the right ballpark of what
it's close to
okay.
it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah.
Has Parks and Rec taken over the MOA art?
No, so MOA is still managing their art. It's more or less lended to the city currently. They have been removing some pieces. You'll notice some pieces around the Civic Center have moved over to Fiddler's Green. And that's where the Cultural Arts Commission is looking at replacing some of the art. In fact, we have a piece that was just purchased that'll go out here in the amphitheater. There's a pedestal that's empty. It's just a pedestal, and that will go there. And so technically MOA has allowed us to keep the art in the city until they choose to move it. They have offered to let us purchase the art, but it's quite expensive.
The 50,000 that we have.
Probably won't cover most. Good question.
What's the issue with the ash trees?
Emerald ash borer is a bug that will get into the tree and it will kill the tree fairly quickly. And so it has been found actually here in Littleton. They have it, so we're assuming it's here in town. If it's in the area, we have it. And so it'll kill off all the ash trees. You can treat your tree. So it fights off the emerald ash borer. If it were to enter the tree, it'll kill it.
It's been kind of migrating this way, is my understanding.
Yeah, it has been for the last 10 years. We've been, well, probably longer than that. We've been looking for it to get here.
Is 50,000 going to the treatment, or is that being saved for when we actually have bores in the city?
So the goal is we have treated all the trees, ash trees in our park system or in right of ways if ash trees exist. And so we utilize that 50,000 every year for that. And we do that in-house. We're encouraging residents, if you have an ash tree and you want it saved, treat it as soon as possible. You have to treat it every 2 years. So every other year it gets treated.
Thank you. All right. I think, Victor, you can bring us home with the understanding that we've already discussed energy efficiency program and the facilities and operations.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, next on the list is the citywide energy efficient projects. As you mentioned, we've touched on that. That's the energy efficient projects identified by our consultant year out. Next is the city center second floor carpet replacements. So that's this floor. It's the carpet here. It's the carpet out in the lobby area here, and then over into courts as well. It's starting to peel up in multiple spots and fray. We also don't have a ton of extra squares around. They don't make them anymore. So there's a couple of challenges there, but certainly understand our earlier discussion on how much money do we want to put into the building. So something to consider on that line item. Last on the page is the facilities and operation that we touched on, that's supplemented by that large spreadsheet at the back of the packet. And then rolling over to the last one there is the Security Civic Center and Rec Center. So these are ongoing upgrades to security, anything from door hardening, modification of cameras, not installation of new cameras, and things of that nature throughout the building.
Great. Appreciate you all running through that again. I think that just gives us another reminder of what these top priorities are for you all. I think with that, we're saying we'll get the spreadsheets, priority ranking spreadsheet tomorrow. Please take a look at it sooner than later to make sure. Yeah, Victor.
Sorry, can I mention one thing real quick? I just wanted to mention one thing that came up at the council presentation, I believe it's a tier 2 or tier 3, there was a lot of interest around backup generators being elevated up. I just wanted to mention that because it's of particular concern to myself. Our service center is kind of a priority. Our fuel is there for trucks, PD. So our diesel, unleaded, regular is all housed there. And we do not have a backup generator. So if that facility goes down, it's not to say that vehicles can't go to the gas station down the road, but that is where all of our maintenance vehicles, parks, public works, PD comes there, and our shop, fleet shop, which maintains our vehicles, is in that facility.
Could
And I
you
think-
point
oh,
out
go ahead,
the-
Sean.
yeah, where is that? I'm assuming it's a tier 2 or tier 3 somewhere on here. Do you know
Yes.
where that is?
Let me find it for you.
It's on page 6.
Nancy is all over this.
She's on top of things.
I don't know
always.
where the specific call out.
Oh,
There it is.
It's the third from the bottom. I
Third from the
getcha.
bottom. Yeah, it's a tier 2 with a $925,000 ask, which we anticipate would be enough to do 2 generators. That would be the service center as well as, I believe, rec center. PD already has a generator, and it runs regularly as well.
Yeah, and I think that's just a reminder that we should all continue to look through this list, and if there are other priority ones, I know alley paving for me tends to try to rise up when we have enough money, but if there are other ones, part of that priority matrix that I think we can recognize maybe some of those things that aren't currently tier 1, but maybe we want to try to provide some funding for, even though that means we're cutting more from the tier 1 project. So thank you for the reminder of that, but I think it's a really important part of all of these projects we should look at, but I really wanted to make sure we at least talk through those tier 1s. And so the next steps will be doing the ranking spreadsheet. Please look at it right away to make sure that it makes sense. Reach out to Nancy directly. If not, and I'm sure we will be able to get, some help from Ms. Nolan to be able to make sure that we're getting this completed in an expeditious fashion. Hopefully, as you can see, it's not a ton of projects. I think we can go through them in detail as much as we want to at the next meeting, where we will set aside how much money for each project we'll get for 2025. Again, for our proposed budget, this will then be taken to city council, and they will complete the final recommendation. So unless there's anything else from staff or others that they want to share on this topic.
Snow plows are housed in a enclosure, right?
During the winter months, we do enclose them. During the summer, not necessarily. If space is available, we will. But in the winter, we do put them in enclosed structures and plug them in. They're diesels, and they have block heaters to keep the engines warm, which helps everything just fire up and prevent issues during snowstorms.
That's a pretty serious. If we had a big storm, that's really needed to have those operational. You can't go out there if they don't start, you're screwed.
And we do have, I will say our snowplows are new. We ordered those in 2022 and they came in late 23. So we might have even ordered them in 21. That was before my time, but they just came in. So we do have new snowplows. And just so you're aware, anytime there's snow in the forecast, several days in advance, the trucks are prepped, inspected, loaded, ready to go. So if we were to lose power, we can manually lift the gate. We had to do that several times this year, and the plows could get out and do what they need to do. Now, refueling after the fact could be an interesting dynamic, because plows going into the normal gas station that you and I fill our vehicles up in might be difficult if the service center doesn't have power.
Go ahead, girl. Yeah.
They'd have to go to a truck stop, essentially.
For parks, the detention pond, is that going to have a parking lot? Oh.
The new South Inglewood flood reduction pond?
Off of Windermere.
I would need to check. I don't think it has a parking lot. It has on-street parking, given the cross-section of the roadway.
So that won't be a park as per se?
There's some programming when it's dry, But similar to kind of like Rotolo Park. But I don't think it's predetermined exactly what that program will be yet unless, Christina,
It's big enough it could actually have maybe 2 soccer fields in it.
We've looked at programming it for sports practices, also for off-leash use.
Will that,
Or
yeah,
swimming pool when it's full.
it's just a couple times a year, it will be. Will that, is that then intended to be a bluegrass or a turf or native grass then?
We're looking at native grass.
Okay.
There's a couple different versions of it that we're looking at to see what will work. Obviously, in a flood event, whatever's down there, we can't put a playground. Very low amenities can go down there because during a flood event, we don't want people wandering down. So
I think the challenge though is having a big, expansive bluegrass area as well. So I think the native grass makes sense, but that becomes more challenging than for multi-use. Right. So it'll be a fun balance.
Yes, it will.
Figure that out.
As the mother of two boys, trust me, you don't, plan ahead, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. We again appreciate all the information you provided. I think it helps again educate us to what your priorities are and understanding what these needs are a little more clearly than can always be included in a piece of paper. And I know there's a lot of information that was put into these, but hearing it is also very beneficial. So with that, I guess anything on staff's choice?
No, I don't have anything today.
Okay, attorney's choice.
No, I don't have anything today either. Thank you.
Commissioner's choice. I'll go across the room here. Start with Michelle.
I have nothing, but I know that preparing all of this is an enormous task. Just out of curiosity, when did this whole process start?
For Public Works, I think Finance started poking us like 1st of April, or maybe even before that. Might have been mid-February.
You got your crystal ball out and figured it all out. Okay.
There were several meetings, and then we presented to ETAC kind of our recommendations, and then they gave us some feedback, and that's how we kind of ended up with the list you guys got today. So it's certainly some of the earliest that I've heard from my team that the budget process has started here in Inglewood, but gives more opportunity for discussion and refinement.
So basically, do you kind of go around and all the departments and ask for their feedback of what they want to have included in this document? So it starts in early April.
Yep.
All right.
And I did find a presentation for this process. I'm trying to check and see if it's on council. Looks like it might have been January 5th of this year where it was presented. If I can confirm that, I'll coordinate with Nancy and Brian here, and we can get you guys a link to the presentation that was given to council on this process by CMO's office.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
To clarify, was that the process for the spreadsheet or just the overall process?
The overall process and why the change and the process and how it's going to work. The consultant that did that.
Thank you. Carl?
What do you call it? Celebrate Inglewood will be this weekend, Saturday, 10 to 2, I believe it is. And that'll be right out here. And also the Inglewood History Museum will be open 10 to 2. Right over here. Awesome. There's at the corner of All Souls, there's at Logan and the northwest corner, there's a traffic light that's got the walk symbol is out and the green bulb is out. Pardon? Logan, it's the northeast corner of All Souls. Logan and Chenango, I think it is. The green and the walk, yeah. And that's that's right where they pick up kids, right in there. So it's kind of a critical light. Okay.
Is that Logan and Chenango? Is that right?
Chenango, yeah. One, I go by there all the time. I live on the east side of the Duncan Park, so I see when they get out, they have cars picking up kids at All Souls, going back down Logan, probably 2 blocks, and then they go over down Chenango and down Pennsylvania, almost a block that way. So they got cars coming in 2 directions into that parking lot. Is there any issues with them parking on the street? With and in the winter, I'm sure they're running their cars, just sitting there with an engine running for half hour, 40 minutes, which is not very efficient. But is there, I'm just curious, is there any permit they have to do that?
I would need to check with the team. I mean, if it's a legal movement in the roadway, then, no permit would be required. Typically idling, and again, I'd have to check with PD, but I believe as long as you're in the vehicle and you're not puffing, I think you're okay as well. But that's something I can check with PD on, as well as the Public Works team, to see if there's any approved routing. So as long as it's a legal movement, they technically, I don't believe, need a permit.
I mean, they stay out of your way, so it's not really a hazard there, but it's doesn't seem very efficient. Or it's in the winter. I'm sure they're sitting in their cars with it running. You got 150 cars sitting there running for a half an hour and going about 200 yards.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I think Carl's offering to drive everyone home right there. It is a challenge with, a lot of our schools, right? Buses and things like that aren't really readily available. So either people are walking home or having to do that carpool or drive through. So, but it's a good question, Carl. Thank you. Eric?
I don't have any other questions or anything, but thanks everyone for their time. This will be an interesting process, and looking forward to see how it goes.
Noah?
Yeah, I'll say the same. I don't have anything. Thank you all. I am not looking forward to ranking these. This is going to be a very difficult.
It's going to be so fun.
Very difficult process. There's a lot of needs, and all of them seem critically important. So figuring this out is going to be quite an effort. So thank you all for your help with this.
Brendan?
Yes, thank you all for your time. Thank you, Nancy. I don't have anything.
I'll piggyback Carl's, and I just have a question. Who controls the lighting on 285? Is that CDOT or is that the city? Traffic lighting.
So the signal timing on Hamden 285. So previously was the city. The city gave those signals back to CDOT in mid 2022. CDOT just recently replaced the controllers, or the brains, for all the signals, and they're believe they've got communication back up. So that's a long way of saying it's CDOT.
I feel like they've been messing with them lately, and they're not deficient right now. I'm just going to throw that out there. So whoever has those conversations with CDOT, tell them to review their timing, please.
Yeah, and before they changed the controllers, we actually had our consultant who worked on the HAMS study, the Hamden Avenue Multimodal Safety Study, time the signals, and it was great. You had great progression. You kind of just hit the green lights. You might catch one red. That's my commute to and from the office here. So I am in constant communication with them about challenges that I've seen. I'm sure they're tired of hearing from me. But feel free to reach out to see that they actually have something similar to the Q alert system. I'm happy to share a link with the committee. I report potholes on there. I report signals. So the more the merrier.
Love to see it. That would be great. If you could send that link, would be awesome.
Happy to.
Yeah, all of our
help me help
all
you.
of our restrictions. With that, we can adjourn. Thank you all.